Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Grumpy Snail podcast, where the news is made up and my opinion doesn't matter. I'm your host, Jonathan Snyder. Thank you for joining me as I try to squeeze 2 minutes of information into a 20-minute video. If you like these videos, make sure you click the like button, make sure you share these videos, and also subscribe to the channel. If you're viewing on Rumble, please hit that Rumble button if you know what it is, or don't do any of that. Okay, just make sure you hit the like button, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. If you have any questions or suggestions, there's a comment section down below. I do respond to the comments and criticisms, and even if they aren't in the comment section, I will respond to them. I will make adjustments. I upload a video every Sunday at noon, and possibly you may see a short every now and then. So always check back to my channel. When I do my videos on Sunday, they can either be a podcast like this, or they can be like a vlog type thingy, or a short film, which I haven't done in a while, but I do them. I do have a merch store as well, so if you're interested, go ahead and check the link in the description box down below as well. Now, after that long-winded introduction, let's move on to the rest of the podcast. Now, something that is severely aggravating is the advent of fake news, and it's more rampant now with AI than ever. Now, this is not a new thing, like I said, and it has been an issue for a long while, but with the increasing amount of AI tools being used, it is exceptionally enraging to see these things happening, and, specifically, it's not specifically a political left or right thing. It's across the entire spectrum. For example, there was a story about a veteran being kicked out, or veterans being kicked out of apartments or other lodgings in order to make room for illegal immigrants or something like that. And now many of these turn out to be false. Many of these accusations turn out to be false. Not before certain people on the right sufficiently upset and decided to harass these businesses and employees about it. Another story was about this pregnant nurse who appeared to be trying to steal a black person's rented bike, obviously enraging race baiters on the left. And, that story is also not true, though it actually, is, it's an ongoing story. It actually has changed now that the New York Post, I think, got an interview with the actual kids in the video. So, I mean, I have a recent anecdote relating to this. I heard a story that President Biden said the phrase, quote, "the reason we did so poor during the Revolutionary War was because the U.S. didn't have enough airports." This was an obscure story, and someone who's plugged into the news almost 24/7, I was surprised I hadn't heard anyone talking about it. So after some research, I discovered that this was an actual true statement by the President Biden. The president did say this ridiculous thing. However, it was to make fun of something equally ridiculous that Trump said. So, he also has a tendency to do these things. Don't get me wrong, Joe Biden certainly is the last person who should be making fun of someone saying ridiculous things, but perhaps we as responsible citizens can be a little bit more accountable to the information we are consuming before we, too, start doing ridiculous things like labeling a school shooting as a false flag. Now, maybe you're sitting there thinking, now, hold on there, Jack. You've been spreading misinformation, too. Well, put it in the comments. That's what it's there for, all right? There's not going to be any responses if there's no, incoming information. I was asked what I've been drinking. This is actually from New York. It's a local brewing company up there. This is a Hazeway IPA from the Winding Path Brewing Company, brewed in the Keystone State. Keystone? Well, that's not New York. I was lied to. This past week was Memorial Day, and a lot of conservative-leaning podcasts usually do shows featuring veterans because who knows fallen veterans better than operators that are still alive. And one of these podcasters, Megan Kelly, someone who does this a lot. And this past week, she had on Navy SEAL Jason Redman on her show. And I just want to use this as a talking point to compare Navy SEALs, Army Rangers, or just a lot of general military members, such as, the Marines specifically, to the general population. And also, this kind of brings up the Rat Hope experiment, and that we currently, as a population, are weak people. And because we don't normally face adversity, when faced with just the slightest bit of hardship, we just completely blow up and go crazy. I've noticed with someone I'm going to refer to as my daughter, anytime she hears the word no, she freaks out and throws a hissy fit. And I see behavior like this in a lot of grown adult people. People who live here in America, the greatest country in the world. And if you want to argue about that fact, I will direct you to the southern border. Because if this isn't the greatest country in the world, why are they all fleeing here? People whose worst life hardship was being called by a different gender than they identify as. If I could only count the amount of times I, myself, have been referred to as a ma'am or gay. I mean, okay, maybe it's only a handful of times, but come on. Your life is so hard. You know how fragile our system is. Wait till you can't get food. Wait till you don't have electricity. Wait till you can't have all those pills and health care to support your lifestyle. Maybe then we'll talk adversity. Maybe then you'll have something to really freak out about. And, I'm not high on my pedestal here. I'm just as weak as the next guy. I'm all flustered when I lose internet connection or I don't get my 8 hours of beauty sleep. And I mean, look at me. Look at this face. I need all the help I can get. So in conclusion, we are weak and it bodes bad things for us in the future. Like the very near future. Another podcast I listen to, along with Megan Kelly, is Bill Burr's podcast. And he always uses the phrase plowing ahead when things completely fall apart and there's no real segue. So, plowing ahead, I would like to talk about this pistol brace ban that has gone into effect, I believe on the 1st, right? 1st of June? Isn't that when it's supposed to go? I'm not interested in discussing this as a Second Amendment issue. As frequent listeners already know and understand my stance on the Second Amendment. Instead, what I want to discuss is this as a governmental procedural issue. This has become a common occurrence since one of the presidents discovered that he had a pen and a phone. So the way the three branches are supposed to work, according to Schoolhouse Rock, is the legislature writes the bills, right? The executive branch executes the bills, and, the judiciary determines the constitutionality of the bill. And for this discussion, let's forget the courts for a minute. That's like a whole other 20-minute podcast. All of the three-letter agencies, FBI, IRS, and in this case the ATF, are under the purview of the executive branch, right? And is headed by the president, Joe Biden at the moment. So what the executive has done is effectively written a law, which they constitutionally can't do, in which tens of millions of people have to essentially do nothing, and they become felons overnight. Let's set aside the fact that this involves firearms. Let's set aside the fact that this is an ableist law, considering that it concerns handicap of individuals, because the pistol brace is supposed to allow handicapped individuals to, more accurately fire a firearm, or more accurately use, one. And let's instead focus on the specific issue, this action setting a precedent in which the duty of writing laws is stolen from the legislature the actual branch that's supposed to write the laws, and is given to another branch of the government. And this is what you people want. Like, if a left-leaning executive can do this, what can a right-leaning executive do? Like, lots of issues we face today, I feel, are based on the fact that a lot of people, for one, don't know or think about history, and at the same time don't look much further ahead past the end of their nose. A lot of historians agree that history doesn't repeat, but, it rhymes. And when I'm the only one here, but I involve the listener, I involve you. I am reminded of the Weimar Republic a lot recently. A lot of things were going on during the time in history when the Weimar Republic and all that was going on. It really reminds me of things going on right now. And in a period of turmoil, a fascist was democratically elected into office. So perhaps maybe consolidating all this power under one branch of government isn't perhaps the best idea. But, what do I know? I'm just some idiot drinking in his basement. Oh, man. Speaking of the Weimar Republic, let's talk about Target. Specifically, this boycott of Target that's, being perpetuated by the so-called extreme right. And actually, now the Target responded to the original, the original issue. Now they're being, targeted by the left. So, but, if you don't know, Target decided to push satanic and LGBT plus merchandise. And so now they're receiving backlash. It's similar to what happened with Bud Light. Now, I would like to admit that I was probably wrong about Bud Light. I know you're surprised. I'm admitting that I was wrong, and I'm actually wrong a lot. Like I said, just some idiot drinking in his basement. I don't have all the answers. I am fallible, not Jesus. I don't know how many times I have to say I'm just some guy in his basement. But I have a little life experience, I'm wise beyond my years, and a wise man can and will admit when he's wrong. So I thought the Bud Light boycott was going to go on the way of all the conservative boycotts and fizzle out, but you guys really stuck to your guns, and the profits have tanked, and the stock is tanked, and while Bud Light refuses to apologize and now it's doubled down because this is beyond a boycott now. I mean, this is going on for what, like 6-7 weeks. I mean, this is a habit now. So this isn't something that's going to be broken. It's not coming back. The new normal will be, a stock price that's 30% low where it was, and profits being 30% lower than what they were. I've been asked what I'm drinking. Bud Light has decided they're going to cut their losses and support the LGBT, which is fine. It's just fine. There's nothing wrong with LGBT. I mean, we're in Pride Month now, right? I mean, it's one of the 7 deadly sins, but I'll set that aside. I heard someone refer to Bud Light as quote tranny beer. This Bud Light isn't tranny beer. Because otherwise I wouldn't care. I'd be drinking it. I'd be drinking my Michelob Ultra, which is like even more of a pussy beer than Bud Light, because they put like frou-frou infusions with it. That's my favorite kind of beer. I can support adults living adult lives. That's the libertarian man. I don't care. I mean, I really support LGBT. Go do your thing, man, or woman, or whatever. But what I can't support is what Bud Light is, and it's not tranny beer. It's pedo beer. Bud Light was supporting someone who's pushing this nonsense on the children. And I don't want to have that. And now Target's doing the same thing. I used to be an employee of Target. None of this surprised me at all because their company policies are always god awful. And that was over 10 years ago when I worked there. So you add a little progressivism, and of course they promote child gender mutilation. By all means, you go ahead and boycott Target. Seems appropriate to me. It's the easiest thing to do. I mean, you just don't buy the product. You don't shop at the store. I don't like it's. I mean, what's easier than that? I mean, you don't need to hurt people. You don't need to go to the store and rip the place down. You don't need to buy bricks of Bud Light and shoot them up with a machine gun. I mean, that's, first of all, that's just, you're supporting the brand you're buying. It's just dumb. Anyway, you can point and laugh. I mean, that's okay. We do that with people whether they drink or not. But you don't need to get violent. And when you do get violent, that's when you lose. So you just take whatever little money that the government allows you to have, allows you to keep, and you just don't shop there and don't buy the product. Whew. Man, that sounds long-winded. Plowing ahead, let's talk about the NAACP Florida travel advisory that happened. So the NAACP Board of Directors issued a formal travel advisory for the state of Florida. The travel advisory comes in direct response to Governor Ron DeSantis' aggressive attempts to erase Black history and to restrict diversity, equity, and inclusion programs in Florida schools. Florida is openly hostile toward African Americans, people of color, and LGBTQ plus individuals. Before traveling to Florida, please understand that the state of Florida devalues and marginalizes and the contributions of and the challenges faced by African Americans and other communities of color. Now, I would believe these things, except, these are the same people that say the things, the people that say these things, I completely messed that up. The people that say these things actually live in Florida. I mean, you're going to live in Florida and say, you need to leave. I'm going to stay here in the sunshine. These are the same people that say, these things actually vacation in Florida. Like they go and have fun in Florida, just like AOC did back during COVID, talking about how terrible the governor was, and their policies were in Florida, and then she vacations there. The same people that make these claims are the same people that support taking Black people's names off government buildings, off of roads, taking references to Black people off store products and out of the books. These people are the same people who swindled millions of dollars from poor Black communities and stupid white women and pulled it into a failing organization called BLM. Only they aren't failing, this is just the point of the organization, to swindle you out of your money and blow it on lavish $1 million mansions and lifestyles. I guess my whole point is that I don't trust you. You want to trust these liars, go ahead and be my guest. But when people who complain about racism vote for a racist president, I do not believe you. Right? And speaking of losing, let's discuss this upcoming presidential election. Actually, you know what? Let's not, because what I see is a god-awful mess and a large entire wreck coming in both primaries, both parties, and, those parties are there to do nothing but screw over us, the American people. So, we're going to skip that part, right? Because, all these candidates are just going to tear each other apart. And I'm just rambling. You know why I'm rambling? Because we're skipping this whole section. Plowing ahead. I want to very, 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 very briefly, before the end of this podcast, discuss something going on in the Middle East. Now, if war in Ukraine wasn't enough, they just launched drone attack, in Moscow. If the threat of invasion of Taiwan by China wasn't enough, Israel is threatening war with Iran. North Korea is again threatening war with South Korea. You know, we're talking nuclear powers, folks. So keep that in the back of your mind. I know a lot of times I just come here with nothing but problems and no solutions. And that might be the case this time. But I'm working on something for the next podcast that maybe might have some solutions here. Possibly. Or maybe not. And if you're not sufficiently grumpy now, then you are not paying attention. Because your 20 minutes are up, but the grumpy mumbles will continue. So make sure you tune in next week for another video. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's not. Thank you for joining me today. Thanks for listening. If you like this video, make sure you click the like button, share the video, subscribe to my channel, and tune in next Sunday at noon for another video straight from SOB Studios. And, like I said, watch out for those shorts. Also, check out the store. Description's in below. You know, make sure you spend what little money you have left. There may be something there that you like. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Good night. God bless. Cheers. And Godspeed.